We are back on the Mizell Show, and it is still March.
It is March, and we sat down, and Steven surprised me with the topic.
Surprise. Surprise, Alanna.
All I've got to say is the words Viagra get mentioned, breast cancer get mentioned, depression gets mentioned,
influencers.
Cut open gets mentioned.
A lot of different things get mentioned. It was a doozy.
It was a feisty.
It's a feisty one.
The feisty Alanna came out, that's for sure.
But, check it out.
Perfect.
Welcome to the Mizell Show.
An inspiration for a new generation.
Hi, I'm Alanna Mizell, a loving mother of two, a devoted wife to Steven, and an entrepreneur helping women realize their dreams and potential.
And I'm Steven Mizell, caring father of two, a devoted husband to Alanna, and a driving force to help young men prepare for life after college football.
And if that wasn't enough, we're a biracial couple.
She was raised in the North, but I was raised in the South.
The only thing normal about our lives, who am I kidding? It's never normal around here. Join us for the Mizell Show.
Right now. Hello there.
Hello.
Marie. How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing
We
good.
sat down to talk about one topic.
Yeah, kind of. We did.
And then Steven said, I'm going to throw you a curveball.
It's not a curveball.
Went
It's
to
just
explain it to me, what we're going to talk about. And I said, surprise me.
surprise you. So, I mean, like, I think today, so we did a good job in February.
We did. Are you patting yourself on the back?
We did a good job in February. I said I did a good job. I said we did a good job in February of like Black History Month. They're like really honing in on that.
Yeah.
Well, this month is March, and I had some time to reflect, about March and what March brings. And
What is March, Steven?
I feel like we don't do this enough, but it is hard being a woman. It is extremely hard being a woman. I think in general, but like even in today's society, it is really hard to be a woman. And I think
Why do you say that?
As African American males, I'm not discounting what we deal with and what we have to struggle with, and I get it. And African American female, I get it, but like just in general, being a woman, it is hard. And I say that because of recently we've had conversations with friends and couples who are going through different transitions of their lives, and every marriage is different. Every relationship is different. Every parenting skill that this woman has been through is different. And I think it has a direct correlation to just what you guys have to deal with, and it's a lot. And so I say all this, and I'm just going to say this just bluntly. Do you feel like your depression is heightened because you're a woman?
Absolutely.
Do you feel like your depression was before or after you had kids?
Because
let's talk about childbirth.
So
in high school, they really discount what a woman's body goes through when it comes to having children. And
gosh.
They go through the whole piece of it of you have to.
Yeah.
But they never talk about what happens afterwards.
So what? Yeah, so that there's a whole lot of questions in there. So from the top, did my depression start before or after I had kids? Did it start or did it manifest and expose itself? I think it's two different questions. I think it started years ago. I instead of dealing with my depression, I lived in fight or flight, and I just kept running.
Yeah.
And even yesterday, Steve and I were having a discussion. And I said, I've only committed to one thing in my life.
Yeah.
And that's Steven.
I thought you said New England Patriots. No, yes, me.
That's
Me.
hilarious.
Yes.
It's you. Even if you look at the New England Patriots, like I don't religiously watch them.
No, you're not committed to them. I'm just joking.
I
about
do
that.
have my updates on ESPN, but you're the only thing I've committed to. So like, I think that it's hard for me to answer the question of when my depression started, because I think one of the things that is so hard for people to see is we've kind of talked about clinical depression and just depression, or chronic depression. Clinical, chronic, very similar words. And the thing is that depression is a slope. And it varies. There's deep, dark depression to where you're suicidal or are having suicidal thoughts or manic, right? Yeah. But, like, it's not a different grade.
Still depression.
To be regular depressed. Like, just depressed. So you can be postpartum depressed and have the baby blues is what it's called after you have a baby. Where, like, you've given birth, like, you wanted to have a baby for so long. All of a sudden, they're here. Now, what the hell do you do?
Yeah.
So, that's baby blues, and that's a form of depression. But so many times, that also has so much hormonal imbalance.
Yeah.
And then there's trauma depression, which can happen only for a season of time. Now, chronic and clinical depression is meaning you probably need to be on medication for a good bit of time. Mm-hmm. And with other kinds of depression, you've got to really think of it as like an uphill climb or a downhill climb, whichever one you want to see. So when you're experiencing postpartum depression, as difficult as it is, if it is correlated to your hormones, there is an end in sight. Like, you will see the light again. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean you don't go to therapy and things like that. And I do believe that I wouldn't have noticed my clinical depression without my therapist.
Yeah.
And needing to adjust my medication just because she knows me as well as she does. Mm-hmm. And I think those that are closest to you never really want to ask you, are you depressed?
Yeah.
And there are questions and there are signs that you can ask one another, you know, if people are vulnerable enough. But I don't let people see that. So I think my depression started a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I think my depression was more so falling short of this ideal that had been created in my head, correlating to both being a female and the role that I was playing in my family.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to depression, I think you've talked about a few different things. Like, it's something that people will see on TV or see on a social media or on a website, and they automatically think to the worst case, quote unquote, in terms of deep, dark, like, if I'm not here, then I'm not depressed. But there's like people call it like a walking pneumonia, in which, like, you have no idea this pneumonia is going through, and you're just like walking through life. I feel like a lot of people are walking through life depressed, but they don't either want to acknowledge it, and they don't want to talk about it. And it's something that you can live a life. You can look at, going towards...
You can most certainly live with depression and not be on medication. I mean, I did for years.
Yeah.
And so, one of the hardest things, especially if you already know you have anxiety and depression, which anxiety is the same, is one side of the same coin. Mm-hmm. So, many times you can have anxiety that will lead to depression. But you can also have depression that will lead to anxiety. There's only so much you can handle.
Yeah.
No matter how great you are at walling off to people and bulldozing through it. Like, there's literally only so much you can handle. Mm-hmm. So if you're already depressed and the cupboard doors get left open, like, that could be the trigger. Yeah. That gives you anxiety. But it's not the anxiety that's the problem. It's your depression.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the emotional bandwidth for anything else. So for us, what it looked like was after Briggs was born. So Briggs was and we'll go back to kind of like pregnancy and women and all that after this. For me personally, I definitely had depression when I was in college. I ended up getting prescribed Prozac for that. But for me, I was like, it's fine. It's going to go away.
Yeah.
I was president of my sorority. I was a senior. I was way too involved. I was working almost full time, like insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. And so I was on medication for that. And then I got off of it after I graduated. And I think I was okay. But then really it didn't hit.
Do you think our relationship changed that dynamic in terms of
me being on medication?
Yes. Support system?
Yes, 100%. Okay. Oh, for sure. And like finally realizing that there was somebody who no matter what I told them, didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And y'all, let's get real. I threw the kitchen sink at Steven and he just sat still.
Yes. Check the other episodes about how we met.
Well, there's even like
stories we didn't say
there's even
on that,
stuff that like I would never share to the grand world public because you're the only person that knows.
Yeah.
Like, and I threw it out early in our relationship. Very early. But so that's depression number one. And like, probably battled through it in and out. For me, my depression rears pretty heavily when I feel like I'm letting people down. That's like when you look at me leaving jobs, switching jobs, or career paths, or whatever it might be, usually that's a catalyst.
Okay.
And I haven't been on medication and faced that where I've let people down. I don't let people down well. And that's me thinking that I've let them down.
Yeah.
Nobody's told me that I've let them down. So that's interesting because I'm sure we'll get to it and we'll see how I handle it now. But after Briggs, so Briggs was an emergency C-section. After at my 6-week appointment, my doctor just said, "How are you doing?" And I couldn't say words.
Yeah.
Words did not come out of my mouth. And pretty much right after I had Briggs and we got home, it was day 3. I couldn't breastfeed. And I looked at Steven and I said, "I'm going to throw him." And he just, and I'm laughing now, but like when you think about it, I'm going to throw my newborn baby.
Yeah. When
with Adele, I could not let her down.
Yeah.
Because I was so excited to have her. Not that I wasn't excited to have Briggs. It was just different. My body had been dramatically torn open very quickly. I was not ready for it. I did not mentally prepare for a C-section. I thought it was going to be easy and spring chicken because Adele's was relatively easy. And I just thought I had all my stuff together.
Yeah.
And that, but like as a woman, that's what they tell us to do.
Yes.
And if you don't, we'll cover it up with makeup and skinny jeans. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you.
Yeah.
Get on Amazon and get a shirt in 2 days and pull your ass together.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice.
Yeah.
We literally don't have a choice. So if the kids are sick, or especially like a brand new mom.
Yeah.
If you choose to breastfeed, which, you know, we're not even getting into that topic, but if you choose to breastfeed, you are the only source of food for your baby.
Yep.
You then don't sleep after you've held and carried this child for 9 months, and then you're going to end up falling short to this societal standard that you see plastered all over the internet. On top of the fact that there's going to be a bunch of feminists and women that tell you work harder to get to the top, break the glass ceiling, work and be in the workforce while you have a newborn. And, oh, by the way, when you go back to work, you're going to have to pump in a closet and miss your baby and cry the whole time.
I think that's the picture.
Like that. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, you have to do that every 3 hours. So then you get 15-minute breaks. But if somebody were to still smoke cigarettes, that would get the same 15-minute breaks, but not be required to work at the same time. But if a mom goes into a break room to pump for her child that isn't with her so that she can feed them later, she better be working at the same time.
Well, it's not every company's policy. People.
No,
but a lot. No,
but most of corporate America would then also look at women and say, you're falling short. Because you're not responding to the emails at the rate that you used to. Or you can't work late anymore. One of our good friends is a CPA. And she wasn't working Fridays and was, she adjusted her hours to be able to get her son at 3:15 right when their day ends. And because of tax season, needed to go back on Fridays. Well, they wanted her to also be able to stay late and yada, yada, yada. They've got a 6-month-old. And she's just like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I'm already struggling being at work and knowing that I've got to. And that's just the dynamic of their financial situation. And she's like, what do I do? And I was like, no, you've got to create that boundary. And I think one of the biggest blessings that I've learned over the last 2 years is that women can also have boundaries.
Yes.
And at the same time, men should have more boundaries.
What do you mean?
Like, why does it fall on the female to have the boundaries and get home on time? Which in our house, it's a different scenario. Like, Steven's got great boundaries. He has learned to put our family first over his career. But I find that so many people, it's how I grew up. My mom was the one that made sure that she got off on time to make sure that we were taken care of. My dad didn't.
Yeah.
It never really falls on the man in most homes. And if it does, and the woman is making more money, then you have a respect issue in the house. And there's like this gender battle happening.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen more and more and more. Because the more women figure out how to ask for help, the higher we will get.
Yes, this is that's true. And then also, this is something that we as a society are trying to change and tweak. And how do you have that balance?
As a society...
I mean, it's a pretty hot topic right now.
It's a hot topic.
It's a hot topic, and a lot of companies you're seeing these
it's
posts on
It's a hot topic, but I would say, and I don't know the exact numbers, but the lowest paid person in America is the black female.
Yeah.
The next lowest paid is the white female. Or, the minority majority female.
Yeah.
And then it goes black males, then it goes white males. Mm-hmm. Minority majority. Using the black white very loosely here. Just kind of trying to make the point. So, although we're there, we're not. If you were to look at CEO versus CEO,
yeah,
you're looking at two drastically different salaries, and I would bet that there's more on that female's plate.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I was just saying from a standpoint.
Stephen opened a can of worms when he.
Yeah, but I'm just being honest. I mean, like it is Women's History Month. It is a month that we, we recognize the struggle of women, and we look at the breakdown of it. And I think I'm not going to say.
I would say there's a lot of companies that are making it an initiative, but when it comes down to the company's pockets, are they willing to pony up and make it level?
Yeah, but where do you think we as a society fall short in educating males and educating females about how it should be or it could be?
I mean, you could ask the same question for systemic racism.
Yeah, that's true.
Marginalizing females is not the same as systemic racism, but it is a form of systemic racism. It's saying that there is a chosen group that is higher than anybody else, and that is the white male.
Yeah.
And you've got to also look at like when taxation gets edited or changed and reformed, or when just look at the amount of money that's going into Viagra currently. Well, why is there not the same amount of money going into cervical cancer, or the increased amount of fertility treatments that have to happen to women, or even covering fertility treatments? No, the fix is give a man Viagra and then they can have more kids. The amount of research that is going into prostate cancer, because it is more predominantly found in males, is astronomically higher than any female research that you're talking about. The breast cancer would have been cured by now if the amount of dollars put into the male genetic makeup was put into breast cancer. But because men are not making up the majority of people who get breast cancer, the money's not there. Why? Because the funding comes from the top 1% white males, and they don't want to have breast cancer, and heaven forbid they can't get an erection.
Well, there you go. I mean, yeah, that was, yeah.
That's America for you.
That's America.
I mean, you can even look at it all the way back to when our founding fathers were there.
Yeah.
It started then.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much just letting you run with this podcast. No, but I mean, I see what you're saying, and I see the fact of, because I was even thinking back to my upbringing and thinking through the lessons I've learned through women and through the quote unquote gender gap, and I can't pinpoint. It's one of those things where you kind of just get taught, but you don't know you're being taught how it's supposed to be. Like when it goes back to the facet of having kids. I talked about this earlier in our podcast about like when they teach you, they don't teach males anything in terms of what this female is going through, how this struggle is going to go, how it's going to affect her.
Yep.
They just say you do the act.
Or the mental ramifications.
You do the act.
Like your hormones don't change when I get pregnant.
No, not at all. You do the act, and then she becomes pregnant, and then the baby comes out. They don't talk about like how everything changes during the pregnancy and the
don't
postpartum.
Even add in if you have infertility and you've got to get an IUI or an IVF. Those chemicals don't go into a man.
You can't talk about that.
Also, I have a question. After we had kids, did anybody ask you if you were going to go back to work?
No. They just...
No. You know how many times I was asked if I was going to go back to work?
I mean, I would have stayed home with the kids.
That's not my point.
No, I know.
My point is, you also had the kid too.
Yeah.
And how many times have you heard somebody say, "Oh, that's so nice of your husband to take care of the kids"? Well, that's not daycare.
It's not daycare. It's not your...
You're 50-50 in this too. Even though I'm the one that carried him and got cut open, like, they're half your DNA.
Yeah, I mean, they are. They definitely are.
But it's mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing. And every relationship and every marriage is, of course, different. And everybody's raised and rooted in different. So don't
absolutely
sit here and, like, reevaluate.
So, like, the only way that will change is if genetically we begin to change it. And I think that is almost behind the battle for balancing out racism.
Are you loving the Mizell Show? Well, we love you all. And did you know that you can have me and Steven talk to your team or a group of 25 of your friends? All it takes is 25 people showing up on either a Zoom call, a Facebook Live, or really anywhere. Hopefully in person sooner rather than later. But how do you get us? So all you have to do is email themizellshow@gmail.com, or you can direct message us on Instagram @themizellshow.
I don't think it's going to change until after, like, it's a genetic thing.
Yeah.
Like, you have to teach that. And one of my coworkers, I asked her, I don't remember what I said, but, like, I responded back to her in a conversation just thanking her, talking about her mom.
Yeah.
Because her mom always worked.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, she asked me how my kids were doing with the transition of me going back to, like, traditional working hours. And I said, you know, they're doing okay. It's definitely an adjustment. And afterwards, she goes, well, I love that my mom worked. And so afterwards, I thanked her for that because I needed to hear and see somebody who wasn't heartbroken that their mom wasn't home all the time and didn't long for a stay-at-home mom and actually honored her mom more for working.
Yeah.
And she's like, my mom still had it together. Like, she still showed up for us.
Yeah.
But she also was at work.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I needed to see that I could take that path too. Because the odds of being a stay-at-home mom, as our standard of living increases and our wage gap doesn't get any better, is just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Kids are not going to know what it's like to grow up with a stay-at-home mom. Also, how many stay-at-home dads have you ever met?
Not many.
And no, I'm not trying to brag on men right now.
Yeah.
Steven just opened a can of worms. And the other thing that one of my dear friends and we were talking about was this identity crisis that happens after you have a baby.
It definitely is an identity crisis, and I think it's a societal identity crisis. And then I think it's also when you see other people have kids, and you see other people be able to stay at home, mm-hmm. or see other people, and you have this whole thing of like, I need to have that, or that's what I want, and you have an identity crisis. You don't know what's best.
So my question actually was dealing with this when I realized I needed to go back to work, was deciding what I wanted. And the line of what I wanted and what I thought society wanted of me and what my kids needed were so blurred together that I could not figure out what I wanted. Yeah. And there's so much identity that gets lost when you become a mom. People see you and they go, oh, you're so-and-so's mom. Yeah. Like your name gets lost. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was used to that because there are so many people that won't recognize me if Steven's not with me. Yeah. And vice versa. Yeah. That's just because we're an interracial couple, so it's much easier to identify us. Yeah. But I struggled with that so bad. Mm-hmm. And I think with Adele, it wasn't as bad because I knew I wanted to go back to work and it wasn't an option. For Briggs, it was like, well, what do I do? Yeah. Where am I going? What am I doing with my life? You know, and based off of your career path and kind of what we chose for our family, I was even more lost. And then on top of that, I just kind of let the loss continue to happen and put all my effort into our kids. And then it's like, who's this girl? Yeah. Like, I was nearly a shell of who I was. And that's for nobody else's fault except mine. Mm-hmm. Like, I fell short of realizing that I was falling off. Yeah. And I think that my depression probably started back then and kept continuing to get worse. In 2020, y'all did not help. Like, we need human interaction to name one of the many things. I think
also it's very important because during that season of our life, we both kind of lived in this not say fantasy, like a fictitious world that we thought we were doing what we both wanted in terms of you staying home, you working the job with, Saint and having the flexibility, then me having the job that I have, and it would be this climb, and you would be supporting me, and
I had nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it, but at the same time, it was the thought that we never sat down and never had that intense conversation. Like for me, do I want to be the sole breadwinner? Do I want to be that person?
Do you want the weight of being our sole breadwinner on your shoulders?
Yeah, exactly. We just assumed that.
Which also for us, one of the biggest things that drew us to each other was both of us being so driven.
Yes. Yeah.
Like so driven.
Yeah.
And so then we removed that.
Yeah.
And so then there was a large part of me that was living vicariously through your career. Yeah. And there was so much of the first year that I was like, tell me how I can help. Tell me how I can help. Tell me how I can help. I'll make that for you. I'll do that. What else do you guys need? Do you need me to bring a gift bag? So overdoing it. And like that's it should have been a telltale sign that there's somewhere that's not being fulfilled in you.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was ever work. And that's the thing, is that I needed to be fulfilled in myself, not in my kids, not in my husband, not in my husband's work. Yeah. I need to be fulfilled in myself and who I was and who I am before I could ever be fulfilled in my work. Yeah. So my work doesn't define me. It's just an aspect. It's just a character trait.
Yeah.
Right? It's just something that I do. I also craft, but people don't ask you, what are your hobbies?
Yeah.
Off the bat, they say, what do you do for work?
Yeah.
Why is that our first question?
That's
right?
The norm, yeah.
Or for women, do you stay home with the kids, or do you work?
Do you have kids?
That's how it goes. But like if my kids are running around, they're going to ask me first if I stay home with the kids, and then probably be surprised that I work.
Yeah. Well,
just because.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what else you asked me, but I think one of the biggest things that people don't talk about is that identity crisis piece after you have a baby.
Yeah. I think it's the identity crisis with the wife. Is also the identity crisis with the husband, and just automatically assuming the wife is going to be okay. Like
right. And the other thing with that is, depending on how long it's taken you to get pregnant, you then have to add in the journey of 9-10 months, where pretty much one of the only things you're focusing on is growing a human. And so you're already giving up everything you have for a human to literally eat off of you.
Yeah.
So then your mind hasn't had time to figure out what do you want, because it doesn't freaking matter.
Yeah.
You've got to grow this human. And so then you're also thinking that for us, it was years before. Two-ish years before I got pregnant. Yeah. So 2 years before I got pregnant. Then I was pregnant for 9 months, 9-10 months. So almost 3 years by the time I actually finished my maternity leave. Then it's like, hey, what do you want?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have no idea. No idea.
And the thing about it is like, I don't know when... I'm not saying that we've been built on fear, but I also don't realize, where did we stop forgetting that like the marriage came first and the woman and the body was there before. You know what I mean? Because so many times you have this whole thing of like, I have to stay home with my kid. Nobody can watch my kid. But a lot of us grew up being watched by other people, being passed around, saw our parents work, but now all of a sudden we're like, we can't do that. We have to be there. We have to stop everything and raise our kids.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it's also
I also think that's a demographic thing.
Yeah.
Did I know any stay-at-home moms? I knew maybe one or two when I was growing up.
Okay.
Maybe one or two. But like up north, it's different. It's so different. Women are not marginalized for working. They're not expected to stay home.
Yeah.
You literally ask, well, what does your husband do? Because it's expected that you can't afford it.
Yeah.
And like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
And so it's so different down here. And I always said I didn't want kids because I didn't want to have to worry about that. And then I met Steven.
Then she met me.
I was like, I guess he's got some good genes.
A little bit. So I guess my next question for you is, do you feel like we have, of course you're in the South now, but as a country,
that I am.
Do you feel like there's been more of the career change for women, stay home and not go back to work, or you feel like it's always been the same, but it's just now broadcasted more because you get to see it more?
I don't know. I think that social media plays such a massive role in this component because almost every influencer that you see is a stay-at-home, and I'm air quoting stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And also the reality is they're working.
They are working.
If you look at Rachel Hollis, people thought that she was like a stay-at-home mom that's doing all these fun things and da-da-da-da-da and can do it all. And then they got mad at her because she had staff that was helping her. Of course she has staff.
Sure.
Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
And to look at some of these influencers and assume that they don't have anybody helping them.
Yeah.
But that's what they want you to think.
Yep.
They want you to think that you can be a stay-at-home mom, build this gigantic following, get all these companies to want to endorse you and sponsor you, but you can do it all.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be also the most perfect spots of their life.
Yeah.
So all that's doing is perpetually making women more angry at themselves and more angry at society, but also like we have to own it ourselves.
Yeah.
We're the ones doing it.
Yeah. You almost want to ask influencers, hey, roll the credits after that reel. Like, let's see who put this together.
Right.
What happened,
like, don't edit it.
Yeah.
Take the makeup off and let's see how it really goes.
Yeah.
But also, there's so much to that. Have you ever felt in competition with the way you look, the way you live your life with another man?
In high school, I guess. But no, not.
Maybe for like a spot on a football team, yeah. But like not as a grown adult.
No, as an adult.
And I bet if we were to ask women, they could name 10 people easy that they would prefer to be like.
Where they follow, or they had to stop following, or yeah.
Well, the question is, did they stop following?
Yeah.
Or did they put them on mute? I would challenge to say no. They continue to look and aspire after these women that is fake behind the screen, coming from somebody who has created the fake content.
Whoa.
To make it look pretty.
Whoa, that's...
Like, I don't think all of mine was fake. I tried to be as authentic as I could, but the reality was I was popping it into Lightroom and putting my edits on there to make the image look nice on my feed. I've been there. I've done it.
Ooh.
I did it for 2 years.
You did do it for 2 years.
And at the end of the day, what did it give me? Doubling my depression medication and keeping me in therapy longer. And being further away from who I was supposed to be and actually understanding who I am than I was to begin.
Instagram might block this podcast.
Well, I don't really care.
No, I am applauding you. That is a very huge statement to come and say, because so many people need to hear that. So many women need to hear that. So many guys need to hear it too. But like that's
the guys need to hear that that's what's happening to their wives. When they see them start to slip away, it's because they're too busy on Like to Know, trying to make their interior look like so-and-so's interior who says she got it all on Amazon. Well, sister didn't get it on Amazon. She got it at the local boutique and then found a similar item on Amazon.
And dropped it on like the nose so they would pay her for
the
purchase.
Yes. And then she put a pretty little filter on it and posted it on her wall and said, I'm so happy to be at home with the kids. When in reality, to crank out that content, it takes so much time.
Yeah.
To actually do that. You are not home and present with your children. And don't lie to me and tell me you are. Yeah. Impossible. I've done it. Yeah. You cannot convince me of it.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they're also convincing themselves. They're convincing themselves that they can keep up with this act because they need to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
And you don't. My question is, when you lay your head down on the pillow, are you genuinely happy? If somebody were to say, define yourself, what are the words you would use? If you cannot use the title of your work or the fact that you're a mother and wife, what do you have left? Who are you?
Who are you? Yeah.
What do you want to become without using your children and your work? you. I'm talking about you as a human.
Yeah.
And I think for any person right now, based off of our digital age, that is very hard to do, but even more significantly hard for women. Because we are told from a young age, become a princess, get married, have babies, work at the same time. Also, it needs to be a perfect wedding that is Pinterest worthy.
Yeah. Also, one of the pressures that we talked about, like the whole identity piece with what we were dealing with, that we're going to probably end on this, is that I used to always get on your case during that season or just kind of joke with you about these people that would, create content and put it out there. What is the first thing I would always ask you about one of these female influencers? See if you remember.
What do their husbands do?
Yes.
That's what he always says.
I would always say that.
Because that's so important to know.
Yeah, it's important.
It's so important to know the amount of income that they're actually being balanced by.
Yep.
Who's carrying the load?
Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily the about to be growing influencer.
Now, granted, some people have become very successful and the husband can then quit their job.
Absolutely, that happens.
While you are doing this...
But at the detriment of what?
That's true.
Like, what are you trading in to get the influencer package that is so strongly predominantly carried by women who are already being beaten to shreds by society?
I think a prime example is that, sadly, everybody has known the whole Rachel Hollis story about how, I'm not going to say she was an influencer, but she blew up.
She most certainly was an influencer.
She's an influencer.
The reason she got huge is because she posted a picture of her stretch marks at the beach.
And then started, okay.
And Instagram shared it on their main page. That blew her up.
And then she wrote the book.
It was one picture that changed her life. And then one TikTok that ruined it.
Yeah.
Like, why is it the severity of somebody's entire identity off a picture and a TikTok?
Sure.
What is our margin for grace for another woman?
I mean,
and every woman that chastised her, not that I'm like, whatever, but every woman that chastised her never misspoke, never said something that they regret.
Yeah.
Because she's been up on this platform about feminism and equality doesn't make her inhumane.
Or perfect.
She's not omnipotent and omnipresent. She's not Christ.
Sure.
She's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with Instagram, and that's the problem with our society. And, as we keep going, that's the problem with social media. And it's going to take people like what Kate finds and Natalie Borton and even Olive and June and Sarah Gibson Tuttle and some of these women, and Happy Go Curly's another great one. All of those are influencers that, y'all, they are showing up. You'll see them without makeup on. You'll see them talk about these really challenging things. Mm-hmm. They are talking about what they want to talk about. One of the biggest triggers for all of those things is look at how many times they're sponsored by things. And do you really want your influencers' content to be driven by the sponsorships or by what they want to talk about?
That's true.
And that becomes a hard place to be as a content creator. But you opened up a bag of worms, and I feel like we could talk about it.
It was for
days. I hope that's helpful.
I think it is
to
helpful.
Some people. I hope it's insightful for some men.
I think it was very good for you to talk through the stages or the depression piece. And I think it was very good for us to both open up about the season of life that we're in, that we kind of just just forgot about it. We kind of pushed it down because we had this whole fictitious thing in our mind. So, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. I also just want to say, if you are battling with depression, there is help out there. And one of the biggest things for me after I realized that I needed to up my medication was really titled with clinical depression, is just, I was like, here it is again. I've failed at battling my depression, which is so ass backwards. Sorry for the bad word if kids are listening, but it's so backwards. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
Except a chemical imbalance in your head that can potentially only be fixed by medication. But I would definitely suggest pairing that with therapy. You didn't fail. Mm-hmm. You didn't let anybody down by taking medication and going to therapy. If anything, you're making it so that everybody else around you is able to be seen and heard because you are letting yourself be seen and be heard. So, shoot, that's the battle with women to begin with. That last part right there.
Yeah.
Hope you guys are having a great week. Thanks for checking us out. Hope you enjoyed it.
So if you guys are enjoying this, definitely leave us a review. Give us the feedback. If there's something you guys want us to talk about, reach out to us on our website at themizelleshow.com. There is a contact section. You can put it in there. We would love to hear about it. Or you can always go over to Instagram at The Mizell Show. Also, as always, don't forget to screenshot this episode and just add it to your stories and tag us on Instagram, on Facebook at The Mizell Show. Thanks, guys.